Imagine a plant that is capable of curing addictions and PTSD in war veterans. Sounds like a dream, right? Well, what if I told you it exists? And it is a plant native to West Africa called Iboga. Now, while the plant itself isn't that mind-altering, the root of it is. It's a hallucinogen that is capable of taking you out to another world for up to 36 hours. Being so intense that it is only given under intense supervision, since it's a drug that is also fatal if it goes wrong. Now, Iboga for centuries has been used by African tribes as a ritual drug. It was their way of communicating with gods, and no one knew what it was truly capable of until a 19-year-old kid, Howard Lotsof, who had previously been addicted to heroin, decided giving it a go just for the trip itself. And after his 36-hour trip, he realized that he has no withdrawal symptoms from heroin. Moreover, he started seeing it as something that is killing him and dropped it completely in one 36-hour trip from one dose. So naturally, he decided to give it to his other friends that had been daily users of heroin. And out of 7 of his friends, 5 dropped heroin for 6 or more months post-trip. And that is when he realized that something's up and he started spreading the word. Nowadays, while in most countries Iboga remains banned and classified as an addictive narcotic, some countries have decided to further look into the case of Howard Lotsof and started applying the therapies in private clinics. And well, the results speak for themselves. A study done in 2015 states that out of a group of participants, from whom 72% had been using opioids for at least 4 years, 80% reported that Iboga drastically reduced withdrawal symptoms. 50% stated that Iboga reduced opioid craving, for some lasting more than 3 months. And around 10% of people went drug-free for 2 or more years. And you have to understand that all of this happened overnight, from one pill. And even the University of Stanford themselves, back in 2024, released an article in which they stated that Iboga has a profound effect on PTSD cases in war veterans as well. Before treatment, the veterans had an average disability rating of 30.2 on the Disability Assessment Scale, equivalent to mild to moderate disability. 1 month after treatment, that rating improved to 5.1. Indicating no disability at all. Similarly, 1 month after treatment, participants experienced average reductions of 88% in PTSD symptoms, 87% in depression symptoms, and 81% in anxiety symptoms, relative to how they were before Iboga treatment. However, with all the good, you still have to understand that it is a drug that is deemed unsafe by most countries, and Iboga treatment still remains a thing only a few know about, moreover are willing to try out, since as mentioned prior, it has its own risks and can cause fatal cardiac arrhythmia since it hits your nervous system hard. But then again, the daily usage of drugs definitely isn't helping your heart either. So how does it work? Well, to put it simply, it hits a lot of brain systems at once. It hits your opioid receptors, your serotonin transporters, your NMDA receptors, which by the way are crucial for learning and brain plasticity. To put it in basic terms, it kind of resets your brain, the whole system at once. And man, does it show on the trips that people describe. One Reddit user who was battling addiction states, "The first 24 hours were brutal and beautiful. Visions, clarity, lessons, downloads, not in a woo-woo way, but in a real, deep, cellular kind of way. It felt like the medicine showed me everything I had been carrying, and then slowly peeled it away, layer by layer, like emotional surgery. I saw my childhood pain, the root of my addiction, the lies I believed about myself, and I let them go. Not buried, not repressed, gone." Now another user tried it just for the experience itself, not knowing that the trip will change his perception of life forever. He described the trip itself as lucid dreamings. When your eyes are open, the hallucinations are relatively minor. You sort of see a vibration coming off of things. However, when you close your eyes, you have full-blown vision. This isn't like being on LSD or mushrooms. It's like lucid dreaming. Only instead of participating, you watch the vision and make conclusions, ask questions, and an all-knowing entity outside of yourself answers the questions. And he even called it the God drug. But what's more interesting is what he states happened after the trip. "And I opened my eyes. The visions were gone. and I realized that I'd come to the jungles of central Mexico by myself, that my family had no idea where I was, that I'd just taken an experimental and powerful hallucinogenic in the care of 3 total strangers who honestly believed that the root of Iboga was the voice of God. I realized that I just put myself in extreme danger. I realized that I could not count to 25, I could not dial a phone, I had the mental capacity of a 2-year-old. I realized that I had just been given a chemical lobotomy by the very people I'd been warned about. I actually thought to myself, oh my god, this is what happened to Britney Spears. She took Iboga, yet I refused to pray for help or acknowledge the voice that I'd been speaking to, because it was nothing more than a hallucination, and it had destroyed my other notion of God. So I sat with the most unbearable of fears, until I finally caved and dropped to my knees and said, please, give me myself back. If you give me myself back, I'll appreciate myself, I'll love myself, no matter what. I won't be mean to myself anymore. And instantly, I was sober. I would read, do math, talk, function. And that's when I realized that's what I was supposed to learn. That my whole life I'd been taking myself for granted, putting myself in danger because of an underlying semi-suicidal self-hatred. Back to today, I have to tell you, 6 years later, and I don't take my existence for granted anymore. I appreciate my life, my loved ones, and my wonderfully flawed self. And that is the effect that Iboga has on individuals, and I think it should really be studied more.